Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show how to maximise the level of realism when working on smaller drawings. Now with any artwork, regardless of the size, the contrast makes a huge difference, and when working on a smaller scale it's the values, those sharp dark shadows and bright highlights, that help to maximise more of the shape and form of the subject we're drawing. Now you can see here that when I'm building up my darker values, I'm doing this in stages, and this is going to be demonstrated throughout this entire project. Now when I'm building up my darker values, I'm first of all starting with something that's not super light. I'll usually have a layer of graphite powder for my large areas, but I may start off on top of there with a HB and then build up gradually. Now when building up the values gradually, it also helps to provide some reassurance that we're not just jumping into a really dark layer first. That can actually make the entire drawing process quite daunting, especially with graphite, where we may have a bit more of that anxiety that we may not be able to pull our bright highlights back over the top. However, something that I am going to mention throughout this video when we work with more highlights is the importance of using the right layering process to reinforce those bright values. But before I can do that, I prefer to incorporate more of my darker layers underneath and then add the highlights on top if that area is generally quite dark. So the face here, for example, you can see that I'm building up my pencil layers in stages, but I am allowing some more of those lighter graphite layers underneath to provide the placement for my highlights. Now the placement of the highlights and shadows are not random, they do follow the underlying bone and muscular structure. So making sure that they are in the right place, even on a smaller scale like this, is very important. Now pulling in my highlights, this is going to be where a use of different erasers can make that drawing process easier. So here I've already started off using a little bit of that putty eraser, then I started with my Tombow mono eraser, and now this metal shield here is called an erasing shield, and I'm using that with a little bit of tape across the top to remove more of those subtle layers of highlights. Now depending on how that highlight needs to look, you can use a combination of these erasers to give different effects. There may be more of a stubborn area of graphite that's being a little bit more tricky to remove, and there an erasing shield can be very effective. Now working on the rest of this, and this is where the softness is super important. Now in order to capture the softness, I love using graphite powder. I add this in every single aspect of my graphite drawings, but it's especially useful when working with lighter but softer textures. So once I've mapped in my main lights and darks with the graphite powder, I have to come back in with my pencils and reinforce the values. Now the one thing to remember with graphite powder is it's never going to be as dark as what a graphite pencil layer can achieve. It's purely there just to map in those main values first and aid with that softness. Once I've got more of those midtones in, that's where I can come back in with that Tombow mono eraser and really reinforce more of that fur direction or the hair direction and the highlights. Now something that is really important to consider is not all highlights need to be bright white. Now in most cases the brightest highlight may be the reflection in the eye, such as this portrait here. That was definitely one of the areas where I wanted to exaggerate that. Now if I made all of my highlights on the body as bright as that highlight in the eye, then the highlights are going to actually, in the whole scheme of things, look quite flat because there's no natural variation there. So when I am working on any drawing any size, I'm always trying to look at the reference photo and pinpoint where is the brightest value so that I know then that I've got something I can refer back to. If I start to get too focused on that one small section I'm working on, it's a bit easier then to overcompensate and focus on a highlight and make it too bright. So something that I always do from time to time is zoom out of my reference photo, have a look at more of a whole, just to make sure then that my values are accurate. That would also be the same for the shadows. So the darkest part here is underneath the bumblebee and some of the sections on the face. So I wouldn't want to make the areas on the top of the body or the wing as dark as that, because it is of course then going to change that light source and that three-dimensional look of the animal. Now the way that the lighting hits a subject, it can vary. You can almost look like you have multiple light sources, especially with a subject like this where you might have multiple flowers around that bumblebee, the butterfly, whatever it may be. The same would also occur if it was a bird in a tree. With all of those surrounding branches, that light could bounce off of one branch and then reflect onto one of the other sides of the subject. So it is something to bear in mind. There's not ever one set rule, and it's going to vary from each individual photo. Now, if there is a one-sided light source, it can add so much extra depth in a drawing if that's captured correctly. So this also goes back to what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, where we don't want to be adding random highlights or shadows because it is going to have more of a detrimental impact to that end drawing. Now, when aiming for a high level of realism, there are a lot of things to consider. The pencil technique, the way that we're holding the pencil, the layering process, any shading or blending, and of course the contrast. Now, with all of these things to consider, that's why I like to add my real-time tutorial voiceovers while I'm drawing, so that everything is explained in the moment and it makes even the most complex subjects far easier to tackle. If any of my real-time step-by-step lessons are of interest, then I'll link all of the information to those in the description below. Now, when I worked on the wing, because this is a smaller drawing, I needed to be realistic with how many of the individual patterns, those finer lines that I can include here. If I were to add as many of them that were seen in the original reference photo, the area is just too small and then I'd end up covering up too much of the lighter layers underneath. Now, when trying to draw something that is transparent like this, the lighter values are important, otherwise it's going to look more like a solid surface, something that you wouldn't necessarily be able to see through. So although I am being more confident here and adding in my darker values, I'm coming in with my erasers just to still make sure that there is that lighting that looks like it's going through this area of the drawing. And again, this is one of those times where working on a smaller scale, we do need to be realistic with how much detail we can include. Adding more detail may actually make it look less realistic. So I'm always trying to bear in mind, for the size of the area that I'm working on, what is that right balance for that section. Now, it's often thought that more detail, more individual pencil strokes would make a drawing more realistic, but on a smaller scale, it will have the opposite effect. However, with that in mind, this still looks very realistic, all because I focused on the initial detail, getting that balance right, but the contrast. And I know this is something that I speak a lot about, but it really is so important. If, let's say, for example, we were working on a much larger size and we were adding in loads and loads of detail, all of that detail that we could see in the reference photo, but the values and the contrast weren't right and they were lacking. If that was to have happened, all of those details that we may have spent days or weeks getting in place wouldn't necessarily make that drawing look realistic if the contrast is incorrect. So this is why it's really important to make sure that the contrast is the priority and then the details can back up that contrast, helping more with that level of realism, and as I say, with a smaller scale, just making sure that that's not overdone. Now, at this stage in the drawing, this is where I'm now reinforcing more of my contrast. So you can see that I'm coming in and darkening my layers of graphite yet again. Now, as long as the right layering process has been used, we can get the layers of graphite to look really dark. And in some situations, even pulling in highlights over the top that are really bright, it is possible as long as the right layering process has been used with the pencils. Now, one big tip regarding that is making sure to not just jump straight in to the darkest, most softest pencils on that first layer. Now, if that happens, you're more likely to also get a bit of graphite shine, more so than you would if you build up the layers in stages. So if graphite shine is something that you don't like, then that is one of the things to definitely consider. As I've darkened everything up, you can see that I'm able to pull in more of these highlights with a combination of those erasers. Now, if you do have any questions about removing the graphite, putting in some of those highlights, maybe there's something that you've struggled with before, you're working on a project, you're not quite sure how to progress through it, feel free to pop any questions in the comments below because I'm more than happy to help if I can. Now, the next stage here, after I was really happy with the Bumblebee, just refining my lights and my darks, once I knew that I was happy with all of that underneath, this is where I started to add in the pollen. Now, these kinds of details are the same as whiskers, so anything that's sitting on the very top, I would always recommend to leave for the last layer. Now I'm using my battery eraser here just to create those really fine little dots and just hinting at that pollen. Now, these finer details on the top, I feel that they make a big difference, so I know personally I'm more likely to want to add more than is maybe required, especially when working on a smaller size. So with that in mind, I'm always looking more at my reference photo. I'm not trying to add in the exact number. I'm certainly not counting them. I just want to make sure that I've got it about right and that they are in about the right location. Now, when I started on the flower, all of the same concepts apply in terms of making sure not to add too much detail, really focusing on the values and contrast. Now, the one main difference here is this flower is of a lighter colour, so I don't need to go as dark with my shadows. Apart from in the very lower corner where the contrast is more extreme, but for the most part, it's definitely more of a subtle layering process. Now, anywhere where you do have a bright white highlight, even if a section is overexposed and you're deciding to include that in your drawing, it's always best to allow the white of the paper to show through. So working around those bright highlights, you can always add a bit of graphite on top if you do need to tone them down, but using the white of the paper to our advantage, we know then that that's as bright as it can possibly be. Now, this flower is quite confusing in that it doesn't really look like much until you get more of the entire section mapped in. Now, any areas that look confusing, or maybe we are working on a drawing but we keep making the same mistake and we're not quite sure why, one way to overcome that is to turn your drawing upside down, turn your reference photo upside down, and your brain will be forced to see it for abstract shapes rather than, in this case, the flower and the petals. Now, that is something that can be really useful for judging whether or not we need to adjust the proportions, the perspective. It's usually far easier to identify that when it is upside down. It doesn't look as much like a bumblebee, so our brain is then able to visualize it more accurately. By the time you then make those adjustments, turn your drawing back up the right way, you'll probably find then that it's far more closer to the reference photo. Now, in all of my videos here on YouTube, you'll know that I like to work in smaller sections, and this has been no different. I find that working on smaller sections here, getting it to about 80-90% complete before I move on, just means that I'm more motivated. I don't stay as much in that ugly stage, those base layer stages, for as long. So being able to then visualise this and looking at it and thinking it looks like that reference photo already, even if I'd only completed 2 or 3 inches of that drawing, I do find then that if I have the pencils and I put them away for a day and I want to get back to that drawing the next day, I'm already looking forward to doing that because it's at that stage where it already starts to look realistic. Now, of course, if you are an artist who likes to work in whole individual layers, there is nothing wrong with that at all. It's all down to personal preference. But if you do find that you're starting to get overwhelmed, a bit confused and lost with where you are, that is an indication that maybe the area is a little bit too big. Try scaling that down a little bit and you should find then that it's more easier to tackle. Now, one last tip for judging whether or not you need to make any alterations, even if you know there's something not quite right but you don't know what it is. If you take a photo of your drawing on your phone and look at it on a smaller screen, usually then it's far easier to pinpoint what does need to be adjusted. By the time we've spent so long looking at that actual drawing, it can be hard to notice it, get a little bit blinded by that. So looking at it on a smaller screen is really useful. So I do hope this video has been helpful. If it was, I'd be very grateful if you could give it a like and a thumbs up. It makes a huge difference to my channel. I also upload a couple of videos to YouTube every week, so if you would like to get notified of that content, then don't forget to hit the subscribe and the bell button. If you would like to draw along to this bee or any of my other step-by-step lessons, I'll link all of the information to those in the description below. If you do have any art-related questions, feel free to pop them in the comments. I'm more than happy to help if I can. And I'm going to be uploading another video at the end of the week. But as always, thank you so much for watching.